welcome to another episode of We're Talking Sports.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Sabree Anderson from Washington, D.C. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a second.
Has to go down as one of the great feats in the history of the World Series. Listen in as the Babe himself recalls that epic moment.
Well, I stepped out of the box, and by that time there were over three. When I looked out to center field, and I saw it. I found that the next pitch ball right past the plate. Well, good Lord.
As we watch him circle the bases, there is no question that he knows he has accomplished something extraordinary. The longest home run in Wrigley Field history, stroked with a vengeance. And still, the question lingers, did he or didn't he? Visit the Babe Ruth Museum and Birthplace and learn more about the greatest baseball player ever. I'm John Miller. Enjoy your tour.
Well, welcome back. I'm Sabree Anderson.
I'm Scott Swope.
And we're talking with Michael Gibbons from the Babe Ruth Museum.
That's right.
So can you tell me a little bit of the backstory of how you started and how you got into the program?
No, it's a long story. I've been down there since 1982.
Okay.
I used to be a documentary producer. And so I was doing a documentary on Babe Ruth, 1982.
Okay.
And I went to the Babe Ruth birthplace where he was born and met the people there, got some good information. But I found out that the birthplace was not doing too well. It wasn't drawing a lot of people.
Yes.
It had opened about 8 years before, and after the initial fervor of a new museum in town, attendance started to dwindle. So I decided, being a baseball fan and a sports fan, I got involved. And we were trying to figure out what to do. Babe Ruth is known as a Yankee.
Right.
And Baltimoreans don't like Yankees.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell.
I thought that we needed to do something that would attract Baltimoreans. So I went to the Orioles general manager at the time, a guy named Hank Peters. And I said, Hank, Babe Ruth was discovered by the minor league Baltimore Orioles.
Right. It was Baltimore Stallions?
Browns? No, and it was it was the Baltimore Orioles in 1914 discovered and signed Babe Ruth to a contract.
Right.
So I said, Hank, even though they were a minor league team, they still had the name Baltimore Orioles, so there's a connection. You don't have a museum, how about if we represent you? And he went, good.
Brilliant idea.
So we collected the modest archives that the Orioles had up at Memorial Stadium and took it and then started reaching out to the public to get other things relative to the Orioles. We made a big exhibit on the Orioles, opened in 1983, along with stuff on Babe Ruth at the Babe Ruth birthplace. And off we went. So that was 83. I became the executive director there, and I've stayed there ever since. I have retired from my official role as executive director, but still, so I'm an emeritus guy. I'm a historian. I do the exhibits and stuff like that. I do media appearances and talks and things. But so I've been at this for a long time. In the meantime, we started developing, based on the fact that we now had the Orioles collection. William Donald Schaefer, who was the mayor of Baltimore in the 80s, he came to me when the Colts left and said, "You're the Orioles Museum. I'm getting the Colts archives back from Robert Earsay in Indianapolis.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And you are now the official Baltimore Colts archives. So
That's awesome. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I'll take it, right?
Because the Colts left 84, right?
Right, and so he got the collection back in a Mayflower moving van that showed up in front of City Hall in 1985.
Oh, yeah.
And
Bad memories.
It does.
Yeah.
He says, Gibbons, get your butt down here and go into that trailer and make sure that everything that's on this list, this inventory, actually came back. Well, it included the Super Bowl V trophy that the Colts won in 1971.
Right.
So we got this enormous collection, and we started to collect things from the Colts then. Johnny Unitas donated his collection to us. Other Colts did. Then we became the Ravens Museum, and then we started representing the Maryland Terrapins, and then we needed a home for all this.
Right.
Yeah, somewhere to put all this.
We built Sports Legends Museum at Camden Yards,
Right.
where we stayed for 10 years until getting into a rent dispute with our landlord.
Yes.
And so we left there because we were paying exorbitant rent. And our
sad to say, sometimes it comes down to all the business with the rent and all
well,
that
it
stuff,
does.
you know what I'm saying?
We built this wonderful museum, and we just could not get the support that we needed from the state of Maryland, which was the landlord at the time.
Yes.
And I can say, not to cut you off, but I've been to that museum twice.
Yeah.
And just the history is unbelievable. I mean, it's not just the pro sports. It was like the college lacrosse. You you had like some Hopkins stuff in there. It was a beautiful museum, and we were heartbroken when it closed.
Well, so the collection is sitting in storage, and we have overcome a couple of hurdles as we are trying to build a new Sports Legends. And we're getting really close to achieving that goal. And that's what our institution is doing. So we've got the Babe Ruth birthplace. We just put $1 million renovation into that a couple of years ago. So it is, we brought it into the 21st century.
Gotcha.
That's really good. Now we're concentrating on trying to get the Sports Legends collection back. Because you guys know the history of sports in the state of Maryland is unique.
Yes.
And does not take a back seat to anybody.
Yes.
Well, no question.
Not at all. The football history is great. Lacrosse. We have the oldest continually operating state sports institution, the Maryland Jockey Club, which in the country. Started in 1797.
Wow.
So that's kind of when America started to have some leisure time, and so horse racing became the first sport that took off. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right.
So we are going to take a quick break here. But when we come back, I want to ask you a couple questions about the museum itself, where the Maryland Sports Legends Museum is heading, when we're going to get that up. And there's a couple other questions. We're going to talk to you about a special 2020 coming up this year that is a special anniversary and a few other things.
Yeah, so we'll be back right after this break.
Happy birthday, Babe Ruth. Happy birthday, Babe Ruth. All right. Happy birthday, Babe Ruth.
Happy birthday, Babe Ruth.
Welcome back. You're watching We're Talking Sports. I'm Scott Swope.
And I'm Sabree Anderson, and we was just about to get on Babe Ruth information.
So we're here with Michael Gibbons from the Babe Ruth Museum. And I know there's been some movies about Babe Ruth, right? Was it William Bendix? He had a great movie. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. He's a little younger than we are.
Yeah, a little younger.
And then John Goodman, I believe, did one called The Babe.
That's right.
Okay? But there's an urban legend, Cardinal Gibbons. I played high school football and high school baseball at Howard High School, and we played Cardinal Gibbons. And when we got there, our coach told us about the window up in the school where Babe Ruth, apparently, he got in trouble once for breaking the window, right? You can go ahead and give us a little background on that, and I'll tell you what we did.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Babe was kind of a cantankerous kid, and he got in trouble from time to time.
Yes.
And so if and when he broke the window, they would stand him out in the yard for a half a day or whatever. And all the kids would look at him and make fun of him and stuff like that.
Right.
So, but that went on a few times. And the other major legend that comes out of that yard, you may not know this, but he supposedly, there is a tower that still exists on that property at Cardinal Gibbons High School, what was St. Mary's Industrial School, and it sits close to Caton Avenue, so it's up on that end, right across the street from St. Agnes High School.
Sure.
And supposedly Ruth hit a ball over that tower.
Wow.
Which would have been an amazing shot. So that's the other big thing.
Yeah, that's how was that tall?
Yeah, what?
How tall is the tower? Pretty tall?
Probably
a shot.
Oh, really?
About 60 feet tall.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So, and it was beyond the ball field. So
wow.
He would have had to have cleared the fence at the ball field.
Yeah, and just kept going, right?
It's out in Caton Avenue. So what did you have?
So I remember watching the movie with William Bendix in it. The big scene was he hit a ball into the school and it broke a window. And of course the priests and everything were mad at him. So they bring him in and they're yelling at him. But the one priest had his back, and he knew he was an exceptional talent. And he happened to bring in the minor league Baltimore Orioles scout. And in the movie, it shows the urban legend of the priest says, "Babe, throw that ball right back through the window, through the hole in the window." Oh, wow. And of course, in Hollywood, Babe gets back and he whips this thing through the hole in the window. Yeah. And that was supposed to be, that's why we're signing him, because he's such a great pitcher.
Right.
Because people don't know this. He was a pitcher before he was the slugger.
Yeah.
So
he probably could have went to the Hall of Fame from pitching or slugging?
He certainly could have.
So we go there to play a game, and we're having batting practice. And everybody knows, we've heard the story of this side of this building. And so I never forget, it wasn't me, but one of the players said, "I'm going to hit a ball through that window like Babe Ruth." And sure enough, they throw him a lollipop up there, and he smacks one, and it breaks one of the windows. It wasn't one that Babe Ruth would have hit. He got in so much trouble because everybody used to try to do that, hit this thing. So that was my
Sadie, you gave me something new.
funny story to tell about.
Well, William Bendix, and actually, it was a terrible movie.
Yeah,
it was a terrible movie.
Wasn't
It was made in the late '40s.
Okay.
And but Bendix, in that scene where where Babe Ruth is with the Baltimore Orioles in spring training, we have the jersey that Bendix wore in the movie. It's the Orioles jersey.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice piece. So if you go to the birthplace, that's one of the things you see.
Right, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And then Goodman played him too in The Babe,
Right.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
I never saw that, but I heard that was pretty
It was a pretty good movie?
Yeah, I think so. Is that right?
It was better than the Bendix movie. There's a third movie
Okay.
that was made by NBC Television, and it aired, I'll never forget this, the day that Memorial Stadium, the Orioles played their last game.
Okay.
October 6, 1991, the Orioles shut it down. And that night, NBC aired this movie on Babe Ruth, and it starred a guy by the name of Stephen Lang.
Okay.
Now, many of you will have seen Stephen Lang in a bunch of movies, but he's not a name, because he's a good actor, but not a name actor.
Yes.
So he played Babe Ruth, and it's really good.
Okay.
Really good film. The problem is NBC lost the film.
Oh,
so we can't see it.
Good old Hollywood, man.
I don't understand how that could happen. But there's only been 3. A lot of documentaries. On Babe. So he's. I'll tell you what. Still to this day, all these years after his death in 1948, he is the most celebrated athlete in the world.
Yeah.
Just
in
is.
a candy bar. And, yeah.
He does.
But now, tell him, he was actually signed first by Boston, was it?
Well, he was signed by Baltimore.
Baltimore, okay.
Okay, signed by Baltimore, and then in mid-season of 1914, the Orioles were having trouble with payroll. They just were not drawing a lot of people, and so several of the players, Jack Dunn was the manager and owner, and he sold 3 of his top players to Boston.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of the year, 1914. So Ruth goes to the Red Sox,
Right.
and then the rest is history.
Right.
Off he
Right.
goes. So it was quite something.
And then eventually, they give him to the Yankees, and that's why we had the curse of Babe Ruth for
the curse of
100
the
years.
Bambino, right?
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's right.
The curse of the Bambino.
Yeah.
87 years or something like that.
Yeah.
The Red Sox had won championships in 3 of the 5 years that Ruth was there. They won World Series in 3 of the 5 years, including 1918. So then Ruth leaves in 1919, and the Red Sox didn't win again until 2004.
Yeah.
Yes,
So it was a long ride.
Yes.
That's called the curse of the Bambino.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So you got the, and even if you're not a big baseball fan, Americans know the curse of the Bambino.
Everybody knows that.
You kind of know that.
Yeah,
I
it's a
taught.
saying.
Right?
I taught a college writing course for 26 years, and as a way of telling the students what I did for a real job, working for the Babe Ruth Museum, I would say to them, "How many of you have heard of Babe Ruth?" And everybody would raise their hand until I got to the last semester, the last go round, 26 year, and one kid did not raise his hand.
Really?
So I said,
You need to
"Where-"
come
I said, "Where are you from?" He goes, "Nigeria." I said, "Okay, so Nigeria doesn't know Babe Ruth."
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here with Michael Gibbons, Sabree Anderson, myself, Scott Swope.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking sports. I'm Sabree Anderson.
I'm Scott Swope.
And we're still talking to Michael Gibbons about the sale of Babe Ruth.
Yeah, that's a really hot topic this year. We had just been chatting about Ruth and his time in Boston,
Yes.
and the curse of the Bambino and stuff like that. So what happens is that in December of 1919, the owner of the Red Sox, who is also a Broadway play producer, he needs money to produce, put on his show No No Nanette. His name is Harry Frazee.
No.
So Harry decides that he's going to get in touch with the Yankees owner, a guy named Colonel Jake Rupert.
Yeah.
And he said, "Jake, I'm going to give you Babe Ruth if you give me $125,000. Now that's a lot of money.
Back then.
Let me just ask you real quick, did they know what a commodity he was at that time?
Yes.
They did.
And now he is a burgeoning star.
Selling tickets and stuff, like everybody want to see him. And
Everybody wants
everybody
to see him.
him.
But he has not become the home run king. He's hitting home runs more than anybody ever else had.
As a pitcher or as a...
Well, he was still pitching.
Okay.
But they had also transitioned him so that on days when he didn't pitch, he was playing the outfield.
Oh,
so he's
okay.
playing every day.
I got you.
So they're taking advantage of his ability, as you said before, his extraordinary talent.
Sure.
And he's called Babe Ruth, so there he is. And so they sell him, and off he goes to the Yankees.
The Yankees.
Now,
The hated.
But they're not hated.
No, yeah.
Well, yeah, not back then.
They're not the
back
New
then.
York Yankees that we know.
Right.
They're a team that has never won a world championship.
Ah.
They do not have a bunch of star players.
Yes.
And New York is just starting to become, the mega center of the cultural universe.
Sure.
But at this point, it's not.
Back then, wasn't it Chicago White Sox and stuff that had a...
Yes. And in 1919, baseball was in trouble because the White Sox threw the World Series.
Yes, they had this scandal and
They
stuff.
were called the
Yes.
Black Sox.
Yes. Yeah.
And a guy by the name of Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis came in and banned 8 players from the White Sox
Yes,
forever.
yes.
So fans are not real happy with baseball. They think it's a cheater sport, kind of like today.
Yeah.
And so Babe Ruth, when he goes to New York, baseball's in a bit of trouble.
Right.
The Yankees are not the Yankees. New York City is not what it would become.
Yes.
But that sale changed everything.
Wow.
Yes.
It became it became the most important. This is me saying this,
Right.
but it's what I believe.
Hey.
The most important transaction in the history of American sports.
Isn't that so?
Because when he got sold, off he goes to the Yankees, and immediately they become the mega franchise.
Sure.
That what we
they
know
still
of
are
today.
today.
Right.
All
right,
these
right.
championships,
Yes.
and all the things that have happened. Well, it all started in 1920, and he hit I don't know, 54 home runs that year, out-homering almost every major league team. In that year.
They used to call it Murderer's Row, didn't they? That word?
That would come along.
I see.
Right, right.
By 1926, 1927, when Lou Gehrig was on the scene with Tony Lazzeri and Bob Musil. So that was Murderer's Row. But none of that existed until that moment. And this is at the moment when World War I ends.
Right.
Ruth goes, World War I ends in 1919. The GIs come home, and New York starts the Roaring 20. Everybody's really happy, lots of prosperity,
Right.
and Ruth hits New York at that time. And of course, his personality and his ability is bigger than life.
Yeah.
New York becomes bigger than
Yeah,
life.
it meshed with New York.
Oh my goodness! So it was pretty cool, to the extent that by 1923 they had built Yankee Stadium to house the popularity of Babe Ruth.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Unbelievable.
A 65,000 seat stadium when most ballparks back then were 8,000 to 10,000
I was going
seats.
to say, I thought maybe 20s, but wow.
65, and they filled it, and so that's why they called it the house that Ruth built.
Oh,
Now, there is
okay.
a document that we have in our possession, and it shows the transaction. It shows Boston sells George H. Ruth to New York, and it's one of 3 that exist, and it's a very, very nice piece.
So I have a little piece of memorabilia I want to share with you. I know it's not as great as that.
Oh, who knows?
Well, my dad
It's
was
not
from Pennsylvania.
Babe Ruth material, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, it could be. You never
Close
know.
enough, brother. Yeah.
So anyway, he was a big Yankees fan where they were from up in Pennsylvania because, it's closer. And, Baltimore really wasn't as good as the Yankees were. Well, when I was a little guy, I'm not going to say when this was, but my mom and dad got me a Yankees uniform, okay? And I have the jersey, and I'm a Baltimore Orioles fan, so it doesn't hurt me because my dad gave it to me. But as you can see,
ain't that nice? That's nice.
got the old, this is, I'm not going to say how old it is.
The pinstripe.
I know, right?
It's like kryptonite.
And it actually, it's worn off, but it actually had a little number 3 on the back. Because my dad was a big Yankees fan.
Take good care of
Oh,
it.
I have. I
That's
actually
your link.
took it out of its little, envelope and it's seeing the light of day for the first time in a long time.
And yes,
You're
folks,
lucky.
as y'all see with the little jersey, Scott still tries the jersey on at home.
Well, it makes my arms look bigger when I do that. Yes, I put 'em on. So you have an event coming up February 7th, right?
That's right.
Yeah, what is that all about now?
Well, Babe Ruth's birthday is February 6th. So we, all the way back from the time that he turned 100 in 1995, we have celebrated the birthday on the Friday closest to February 6th.
Awesome.
We do a Babe Ruth birthday bash. You all are welcome.
Audience.
Yes.
And it will be at a place called Game, which is a sports bar over by the Horseshoe Casino and M&T Bank Stadium. So it's right around
that
there.
area, yes.
Yeah. And, bunch of people show up, and we have a lot of sports celebrities come down and just hang out with people. But a really fun part of the evening is we will do a panel discussion with authorities on the Orioles, how they're going to do this year.
Yes.
The Ravens. They had a great year. Talk about Lamar a little bit, and on Babe Ruth, and we'll do a little bit on the Maryland Terrapin basketball team. You know, what's the story, how they looking, and that kind of stuff. So lots of sports media will be there. Great. You guys show up. You be our guests. And
we'll try to make it. It's Friday. Yeah, it'd be great.
Next weekend. So it'll be a great night. And you know, it's stuff like that we do, special events that help the birthplace continue to support and celebrate the legacy of Babe Ruth.
You know, personally, like I said, I've been to the Maryland Sports Museum a couple times, and I've driven by Babe Ruth's Museum so many times, going to games and stuff, and I have not gone there, but I guarantee you I will be there with my grandchildren and everybody else, you know, to show them, because you know, that's one thing that Baltimore has is a prized possession.
Yes.
It's one of those diamonds that we get to say that he was our guy, you know, even though he didn't play for us, you know, which wasn't his fault.
Yeah, he was still from
here. But it's great to have him as part of our legacy. But so Michael, you have any last thoughts you'd like to share with everybody?
Well, you know, we talked a little bit earlier about, you know, the future of the Sports Legends collection. And so I think that that is going to be a major goal for us moving forward. This year, we have overcome a couple of hurdles, political in some cases, financial in others, but are now starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel because that collection cannot stay in storage. So, we've got to get it out. And you know, so many great stories to tell about Maryland sports and you know, football, baseball, basketball, swimming, horse racing, and, you know, lacrosse, you name it. We've got it all under our roof. So we'll be working to do that. In the meantime, concentrating on a primary mission, which is Babe Ruth. You know, you're right. He is our guy, so let's continue to celebrate that and celebrate Maryland sports.
Yeah, he's homegrown, and you know, as he said with the museum and stuff, you know, we need to keep it around for the future Marylanders and stuff, so they can know what really be going on in Maryland, and you know, we're not to be overlooked. We have athletes and stuff here too.
Great history here.
Always, great history here. Yeah. Always.
Michael, I want to thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much,
buddy.
And hopefully we can get a lot more visitors down here for this Babe Ruth Museum and show up next Friday, February 7th.
Right.
That's it. Babe Ruth Birthday Bash.
Babe Ruth's birthday. Come on
Be in
down.
touch with the museum and go to our website, baberuthmuseum.org, and get all your information about that special event.
Well, we hope to see you there next Friday.
Yeah.
I'm Scott Swope.
And I'm Sabree Anderson. And when you come down, Scott hopefully be wearing that little shirt.
Yeah, I have my shirt with me. I'll be walking around with a little shirt. And we'll see you next time
on We're Talking Sports.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Later.
Thanks.